Most engineers preparing for the PE exam discover quickly that it isn't just about technical knowledge. It's also about endurance, strategy, and overcoming unexpected challenges along the way. The exam can feel like the biggest hurdle of your career, but it can also become the very thing that opens doors to opportunities that you never imagined. Joining us today is Stefanie Reichman, licensed professional engineer, senior customer success manager at Bluebeam, who built her career at the intersection of engineering and technology. We'll talk about exam strategies, the impact of licensure, and the skills that transfer directly into emerging technology positions. If you're studying for the PE exam or considering how this milestone might influence your future career, this conversation is for you. Get ready to hear practical advice and inspiring insights that will help you not only pass the exam, but also leverage it as a springboard for growth in today's evolving engineering world. Now, before we jump in, I do want to tell you about our AEC PM Connect event, built for project managers who want to improve project delivery, communication, and leadership through practical sessions and tools. These events provide an avenue to connect with leading PMs in the industry. Visit aecpmconnect.com and register today. I'm your host, Anthony Fasano, and I'm excited to bring you this valuable episode of Pass the PE Exam. Let's dive in. I would also like to recognize one of our sponsors for the event, School of PE. Are you putting off preparing for licensure? Waiting for life to slow down so you have time to prep? Months from now, you could find yourself still waiting for the right time. Or you could start preparing today with School of PE. Take the guesswork out of exam prep. With 93% pass rates, expert instructors, and a pass guarantee, you'll be walking into that exam fully prepared. Make the right choice today. Enroll now and save 32% with promo code EMI32 at schoolofpe.com. That's SCHOOL of PE.com. All right, well, now I'd like to welcome my guest onto the show for today. Stefanie Reichman is a licensed professional engineer, senior customer success manager at Bluebeam. And Stefanie, welcome to Pass the PE Exam.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. I think we've talked before about how this is a full circle moment as you've interviewed me. I think it was about 10 years ago. So this is fun to do again.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, but we're happy to have you back and to talk a little bit about your career now. And
Yeah.
let's start there. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got started in engineering?
Sure. Got started in engineering. I picked it as a major mostly because I thought engineer sounded cool. Uh, which is definitely how we should all pick our careers. But yeah, I thought that it sounded impressive. My older brother was an engineer, and I saw other people going, "Ooh, you must be really smart," and figured that if he could do it, I could do it too. Uh, which is how I picked the degree, and was fortunate to study structural engineering. As I was kind of wrapping that up, I realized it just wasn't for me. But everyone was always talking about the PE. So it was definitely one of those things that I felt like I needed to do. But as part of my kind of career journey, I ended up pursuing a master's in construction management to get kind of a different exposure to different elements of the industry, which then I ended up working as a PM for an engineering company and also a VD&C manager for a general contractor. And now I work for Bluebeam. So it's been a lot of different things in my career, which has been really exciting.
That's great. So, Stefanie, how did earning your PE license and preparing for the exam kind of give you the confidence and the skills to succeed in making these different career moves, and especially into the tech focused role that you're in now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question, and I want to take a step back before fully answering it and say that I failed the first time I took it. So I was a repeat test taker, and I did it mostly because it was something that I wanted to do. It was, like I mentioned, something that was always talked about in school as like kind of the pinnacle of your engineering career. But as I was kind of progressing through my career, I kind of fell in love with the fact that it was something that was mine and something that would stick with me forever. it was independent of my education, independent of where I worked or what I was doing or the experiences that I had had. I would always walk into a room and I would always be a licensed civil engineer. And I think that that piece was really exciting to me. Now, I took the exam the first time, and we can certainly dive into like maybe where I went wrong the first time, but I think it was that preparation of knowing that this was for me and for my career, and then being able to obviously leverage that then later in interviews, and like being able to give myself a credential that I felt had some weight to it.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I agree with you. I think that many people, talk about the professional engineering license as the pinnacle of their careers. And I think that alone, having that kind of credential that signifies that kind of knowledge and technical competence really can just give you that confidence to, do whatever you feel you want to do in your career. And I guess if we look back a little bit, your own PE exam journey, you mentioned that you didn't pass the first time around. What would you say were some of the bigger challenges that you faced when you took the exam, and some of the things that you did to try to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. I will preface saying that I was the, I think, second to last go around of paper pen. So some of this might have changed now that kind of the rules are a little bit different, which I think is great. The changes of being able to take it whenever you want. But back in
Right.
the old days, you could only take it twice a year. So there was a lot of pressure on those October and April test like slots. Um, so when I prepared the first time, I took an October exam, and it was just a lot. It was a lot in terms of like the excitement that I'm finally at this like juncture in my career where I am able to take this exam. But I think the one thing that I really missed was not having you're out of practice of like sitting down and studying for that long, that by the time I got to the afternoon session, like my brain was fried. And my scores reflected that. Morning session was fine, but then the afternoon session, like all like the scores just really dwindled. And I think in having that kind of a little bit more perspective after obviously I saw the results of the exam, and knowing that I was hungry to try it again and again, like I had April was the next slot, so I knew kind of like what that had to look like for me, and I knew that I had to sit down and take actual practice exams, but I also had to hold myself accountable, because I think that was a piece that I was missing at the beginning, where it was like, this is fun and exciting and I'm going to try this. But that's not really a strategy, especially if you're not someone who's like, I wasn't actively working in any of these fields. Um, and there was a lot that I had to learn. And so I think when you go in with this, like, this is going to be fun, or this is, I'm just going to study without really holding yourself accountable to say, like, I'm going to work, I'm going to study 10 hours a week, and I'm going to take 3 full length practice exams before the exam. Like, that was that shift that I made from the first time to the second time. And yeah, it was like like night and day difference of the test taking experience because of it.
That's great. And it's interesting that you say that because when you and I both took the exam, it was offered twice a year, so we had that structure to work around where we knew we had to take it on that date and we had to plan accordingly. Now, being that it's computer based, you can take it much more frequently, but I think that also can be a downside because I could take it whenever I want. I don't really need to plan and study or have much of
Yeah.
a structure. So I do think for those of you out there, I would try to pick a date, sign up, commit to it well in advance, and put together a study plan around that and try to hold that date, even though there's a million other times you potentially could take it. I think that really can help you to increase your focus around what you're trying to accomplish. And the other thing that was helpful for me was I told people when I was taking it, like my boss and people in my company, which put a little bit of, I think, good pressure on myself that, I'm taking this day off. I'm going to take the PE exam. And again, I wanted to show them that I could succeed and, show them that I can do it. So I think that the sign up process really can commit you to it and help you to get that date and put your study plan together. So I would highly recommend that be one of the first things that you do.
Yeah, I think that's really great. I think something else really to consider there is like I think sometimes people, especially because you have this runway, is like, oh, I'm going to study for 6 months or 8 months or 9 months. And when the second time that I took it, I had much more, like, everything was more planned out, everything to the day of what I was studying and what I was doing. And I think one of the biggest takeaways I had was that there's like a really sweet spot of like between 8 weeks to 4 months, 4 months being a little bit on the long side of like how long to prepare for. And I definitely felt that to be true at a certain point. Like you do get kind of burnt out. You don't want to spend another weekend doing it. And you forget what you learned in the first couple weeks because it's just been so long. So
Right.
um definitely like start with the end in mind in terms of when you're going to take it, but then don't pull back like too far because you'll end up just forgetting what you studied.
Yeah, 100%. No, that's good stuff there. So, Stephanie, do you think that your career path would have looked different if you hadn't pursued the PE license?
Hmm. Definitely one of those crystal ball questions. I think that it definitely wasn't necessary. I'll start there. I don't think it was necessary. I think I personally would have spent my entire career wondering what if. Just because it was something that like everybody was talking about. I was in a place where I could take that time to study. So that was great. I am now a mom. The idea of doing that, like being a mom, but also studying the way I studied, like that's really scary and hard. And whoever is out there that might be doing that, like so much power to you because that's such a challenging time. Um, Now, would my career look different? I don't think so, but it did give me a lot of confidence in I can do hard things, which is something I said to myself almost every day studying, I can do hard things. And now when I'm faced with any type of situation or challenge, both professionally and personally, I can go back to that and remind myself that I can do hard things.
Yeah, and obviously, the answer to that question is certainly I don't know, right? Because we don't know,
Yeah.
but I think that it's a good reflection question, and I think what you said is really the way that I would always answer that question is the confidence that, overcoming a hurdle or obstacle like passing the PE exam in one's career. I think that confidence can help you do a lot of things in your career that you may not have been able to do without it, quite frankly. Now,
Yeah.
maybe you wouldn't have necessarily used the license, right? Like if you're in technology, you're maybe not signing plans in that respect, but maybe you are using it because it's that credibility factor. I know for me, I don't do engineering anymore at all. We do PM training, leadership development, but when I reach out to companies about our programs, a couple of people have called me back and said, "Hey, I love the fact that you're a PE and you do this type of work. We're looking for someone to do this type of work." So I definitely think it has an
Yeah.
impact for people, even if you're not going down the design engineering road where you need to sign and seal plans. It is that credibility factor and all the things that we talked about. And I'm also wondering if earning your PE license has shaped in any way how you mentor or support younger engineers in their career development. Has that played a role in that part of your career?
Yeah, I mean, I think people now are curious about kind of the questions that we're talking about. Like, was it useful? Was it a time well spent? I create content over on LinkedIn, so that makes me a little bit more visible in terms of a licensed civil engineer that's working for a tech company. Um, so it does come up often, and it's something that I do generally feel comfortable sharing about, though the first time I shared that I failed the exam was like a very scary moment for me. However, it was met with a ton of me too's, which was great and really supportive. But I definitely don't want to lessen the fact that sharing that publicly was definitely a very, very scary thing the first time. That being said, I recently put together kind of a PE resource guide because this does come up often. So I figured I would kind of put all the resources that I use that I found helpful, tips and tricks, and kind of the study plan that I created and how I created it myself. Um, all of that together into a guide, which was really exciting. I didn't really expect people to love it quite as much as they did, but I think it had like 500 downloads within like the first week, which was kind of crazy. So, yeah, I guess people
That's
want the
great.
tips.
That's awesome. And where can listeners get those tips?
I can send it to you and maybe we can link it in show
That'd
notes
be
or
great.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll link it in the show notes for sure. And also, you can definitely connect with Stephanie on LinkedIn, and we'll put her
Yeah.
LinkedIn URL in the show notes as well because, um, she puts out great content and uplifting content on LinkedIn that everyone should have access to as engineers. So we'll definitely do that.
Appreciate that.
So I want to talk about technology for a minute. You mentioned it there. That's the world that you live in now. What are some of the opportunities that you see for PEs today who might want to transition into AEC technology roles like you did?
Yeah. It's such an interesting place because I've been within this role for about 3 years. And I think 3 years ago, the idea of civil engineers or licensed civil engineers to make this transition was I wasn't seeing anyone doing that. So it's really exciting that this is getting more of a space to be talked about. I think obviously the industry deals with a lot of struggles. Um, and there's certainly some fantastic people that are doing some great work to move the industry forward. However, I found myself at a point in my career where I didn't want to keep pushing a boulder up a hill. I had my motherhood journey that was beginning and different things in my own personal life that kind of made me decide to take a step back from the industry that I really thought I would eventually retire from. In doing that, I went through this journey of really not knowing what I wanted, which I found lonely and challenging because I did have an undergrad degree and a master's degree and the experience and the PE, and it felt like I was maybe throwing it all away. What I've learned now is that's really not the case. There are so many technology companies now. I mean, it's just booming in terms of what's happening at AEC Tech right now. And a lot of those companies are being founded by people from the industry that saw kind of a gap and are working on solutions to fix that. And they're trying to build out teams that also have those experiences, because ultimately it's a lot easier to sell a software or sell anything if you really understand the pain points that your customers are going through. So I think with that perspective, it is a huge opportunity for any civil engineer, licensed or not licensed, to step into one of these roles. I'll add a shameless plug that if someone is interested in at least exploring roles, I found, because I was one of these people, that it is really hard to find these roles sometimes. And there is actually a co-founder of a site called AEC Tech Jobs, that kind of aggregates all these roles into one list. So you can kind of take a look and see what kind of jobs are out there, which companies are hiring, what kind of problems they're solving. So yeah, I think there's plenty of opportunity.
That's great. I think that's awesome, and I think there is a huge opportunity. I mean, we have an AEC Tech podcast, so we're constantly checking in with a lot of the people in that space. And you're right, it's booming. There's so many different tools and resources and software out there today for AEC firms and AEC professionals. And I couldn't agree with you more that having an engineer or a PE working within one of these companies to connect with the clients, especially knowing their background or their careers and what they're going through on their projects, is just a real great way for that company to kind of introduce its solution to the world, so to speak. And so I think there are tons of opportunities there. So the last question that I'll ask you, Stephanie, is going through the process of getting your license is a very difficult and challenging process, or it can be, right? You're talking about two exams. You got to get a certain number of years of experience. The exams are certainly not easy. Like you said, you took the PE exam twice. I'm just curious, kind of as we wrap up our conversation, if there's any last thoughts you can leave with people on how to navigate and deal with such a long process that can be challenging, that can fatigue you. Like, how do you stay focused on it? How do you stay motivated on it? What can you say, especially for someone who had to take it multiple times, which certainly isn't easy?
Yeah.
How can one try to stay focused on the end goal here?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different ways to do that. The first is always alignment with why you're doing something. So I find that sometimes people just think it's the next step or it's what they should do, but not what they want to do. I think when I failed, I realized I had to have just a very honest conversation with myself and realize how badly I actually wanted it, period. And I think when I realized how badly I needed it, the conversation shifted to, okay, well, how can we make this happen? And I think that that was like a really big kind of mindset shift for me of like, because I think there was this narrative built for me by others that like I was almost doomed to fail because I wasn't like working in the industry actively. And so that was the story I was
Right.
telling myself was, well, you're not doing engineering every day. But then I rewired that part of my brain to tell myself that engineering just meant solving a problem. And solving a problem in this case was, how does Stefanie pass the PE? And there was a lot of different offshoots of like what that had to look like. Part of it was mindset, which I don't know that we really talk about enough as engineers, but like this exam is a huge mindset game. And I think getting your mind right, that's super important. So establishing your why, having like a really strong, just like prep, I think maybe is a good word. For example, I'm not much of a runner, but while I was studying for the PE, I did actually do a lot more running. It felt like really good to clear my mind, but I would always listen to the same song. And to this day, whenever I have like a big presentation or something feels scary or whatever the situation might be, I listen to that same song. And when I listen to that song, I'm like ready to walk through a wall. It's so motivating to me because I listened to it for 4 months. And every single time I listened to it, no matter what was going on in the world, it didn't matter because my mindset was there. Like, my problem is I need to pass the PE. This is how I'm doing it. And this is the song that's going to get me through it. That was for me a song. For maybe others, it's reading a book or listening to a podcast or running more or boxing,
Right.
like whatever that looks like. But I think that piece was so, so important for me in my ability to kind of take that to the next level. And something that I didn't really see other people really talking about. I think there's a lot of talk about like the prep courses and like which topics to study. And I didn't
Right.
really see people really acknowledging the fact that it is a hard exam that also needs like mental preparation.
Absolutely. I think that's half the battle, if not more, when it comes to an exam of this magnitude. And for me, kind of a silly thing that I did was I took a sticky note and I wrote my name with the letters PE after it and put it on the like my monitor when I was studying the whole time, just because I was trying to say like this is what I want to get to. And like every day
Yeah.
when we came in, if I was like at lunchtime, I was like tired, I want to study, I would look at it and be like, you know what, that's what I want to get to. I got to study. So I think there's things that you can do, whether it's a song or any kind of motivation
Yeah.
that you can help yourself with to push through it. But I think what's on the other side of it, like we talked about today, is a lot of upside, a lot of benefits to you and your career, to your confidence, if you can go through this exam process. And if you have the eligibility for it, meaning that you've passed the first. So if you have the eligibility, meaning you've taken the FE exam, you've done your experience, and you can take the PE, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Even if you have aspirations to get into the AEC tech world, which I think would also be a wonderful career, I think like what we talked about today, it can be really beneficial for you from a resume standpoint, for a credibility standpoint, and really, I wouldn't undersell the confidence standpoint that Stefanie talked about. To me, confidence is really one of the most important things in your career because with that confidence, I think you can really achieve a lot. So even just knowing that you were able to pass that PE exam and you never sign or seal a drawing for the rest of your life, it could give you the confidence that you need to be successful. So once again, Stefanie Reichman. Stefanie is a licensed professional engineer. She is now, of course, working in the AEC technology space as senior customer success manager at Bluebeam. And Stefanie, I just want to thank you for spending some time with us here on Pass the PE Exam. It's been a long time since we did an interview. I'm glad we got to do another one and really happy to have you share some advice here with our listeners. I hope you found this week's video helpful. In upcoming videos, I'll solve some more PE exam practice problems and answer other questions from our subscribers. Pass the PE exam videos will be published weekly, so please be sure to click that subscribe button so you don't miss something that could make a substantial difference in your exam result. And please leave questions and comments below this video and I will read and respond to them. Pass the PE exam will have you covered. I'll see you next week on Pass the PE Exam.